Time is finite. What do you mean by that? Give us like the elevator pitch on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think we probably all understand conceptually that time is finite. Like we only have a certain number of years on this planet. Now, there are many, Chase, as you know, that are trying to extend that time. Longevity. What's his name? Brian Johnson. Like, we're trying to maximize our time, and I'm all into that stuff too. But I think bottom line, what we're saying is time on this planet is finite, but the reason we're talking about it here today, or the thing that I'm most passionate about, is given the fact that there's an expiration date, um, we've got to make the most of that time. I think a lot of times when we talk about time, especially in business, in real estate, or whatever it may be, we think about time management, like how to be more efficient with your time and manage your calendar. And yeah, that's clearly a really important thing. But this specific topic, or this topic for me, has to do with beyond the calendar, time with family, time doing the things you love, time doing the things that you're passionate about or want to be passionate about, um, and really being aware that everything truly has an expiration date on it.
Got it. So you're not going to have forever, obviously. So let me just ask you this question. Once you kind of really grabbed onto this concept, or it like set, hold inside of you, how did you change? Give us like an example of one thing that maybe would give someone like, oh, this is what he means.
Yeah, well, I probably should walk it back a little bit, because that awareness, it's not as simple for many. It's not as simple as saying, "Oh yeah, I guess time is limited. I should do something with it." I think for most there has to be some sort of like shocking revelation, something that you're aware of but maybe not fully aware of. And it's oftentimes hard to hear, but I think it's important. And I say in the TED talk I did, and I'll say it here now, like what I'm about to say, you can't really unhear, right? Like once you say it, you can't unhear it. That's shocking. And what I'm talking around specifically is the math around your kids, if you in fact have kids, and your parents, as we all have parents. What do I mean when I say that? Um, Again, in the TED talk, I mentioned this, and I'm going to use it as a good example. My daughter, I have two daughters. They are now 14 and 13. At the time I did the talk, they were 14 and 12. But let's take my 14-year-old Avery. Uh, she's 14. We're in an interesting time in my house. That's a different podcast. We have a whole different conversation around what it's like to have teenage daughters and all that. But, uh, my daughter's 14. The average kid spends 300 days per year from the ages of 0 to 18, 300 days per year with the parent. So if you think, for you guys, 300 days makes sense to me. I'm on the road. Some days I work late, or I leave early. 300 days per year, 0 to 18. After the age of 18, the typical kid spends either 30 or 10 days per year with their parent. 30 if they live in the same town, like same proximity. 10 if they live somewhere else. So again, if you think about maybe I don't know your proximity to your parents. For me, I live about 15 minutes down the road, and barring I don't do anything different, which I started cheating in the sense of creating more time. We'll talk about that later. I'd see them 2 to 3 times a month. Like that's a very reasonable amount of time. And if I didn't live in the same city, I'd probably travel to see them once or twice a year, like most people. Maybe it's Thanksgiving or the holidays or whatever, and get 10 days in. So let's go back to Avery, right? I'm 46 years old. Let's say I'm going to live to 80, right? So she's 14. She spent 300 days per year with me. What is that math? 4,200 days means we've already spent 4,200 days together. She has 4 more years before she's 18. So that's another 1,200 days. And I promise there's a point here. I'll get to it here. 1,200 days. And when she's 18, I'll be 50. I have 30 more years on this planet from 50 to 80, based on this math we're using, this example. And she's not allowed to move far from me. So just assuming she does everything that everybody else does, I get 30 days per year with her. So that's another 930 years by 30 days, right? So if I take that 4,200 plus the 1,200 before she's 18 plus the 900, that is what, 6,300 total days. She's already spent 4,200 of the 6,300 total days. What am I trying to get at? And here's the punchline. My daughter's 14. To me, she's still a child. I know she's growing up. She's a teenager. She's maturing. I've already spent like almost 70% of my time with her. Like 70%. My 12-year-old, she just turned 13. It's like 65%. It's crazy to think about it, but if you have a 3-year-old and you've already spent 900 days, you're like 15% already done with a 3-year-old.
Yeah, this is blowing me away. Brent, what are you hearing as you're hearing this?
Well, first of all, the very first thing or place my brain goes is clarity is power. And I don't think enough people slow down enough to gain clarity around that particular topic. And the clarity, I think what it exposes is how present or unpresent you are with the things that are the most important to you. And if you're not present, so let's use your example. If you have a 14-year-old and you're a workaholic and you're not present when you are there, you're on your phone, you're whatever, and you said 70% of your time, that means you've been non-present for 70% of the time. You're going to know and be around this person that you created. So then now with that new information, what are you going to do with it? Yeah. So I'm guessing once you got clear, Brian, something happened.
Yeah. I mean, it should feel pretty shocking. And by the way, you should, for many of us, I've talked about this 1,000 times over. I still get emotional. Like I could feel the hair on the back of my neck standing up as we're talking about something I've covered for years. You should feel it. And by the way, we won't go down this path, but you can do the same sort of math for your parents. And that's harder math. First time I ever talked about this, by the way.
I think the math is actually easier, but the concept is a little harder.
Yeah, harder math to accept. The first time I ever talked around this, I actually started with the parents before I went to the kids. Worst mistake I ever made for an audience. Side note, never start there. Because why? Because, hey, let me just call it like it is. My dad's 73. If you math that one out, I'm like 98% of the way there if I don't do anything different. It's kind of crazy. So what do you do? To your point, Brent, like you're now aware. You can't unhear this sort of stuff. You realize that time is finite. So now I think what's going through everybody's mind is I've got to be more deliberate or more purposeful. How do I do that? And that was, again, that's the questions I then started to ask. And I think there's a handful of things we can do and things you guys probably are already more aware of, like put your damn phone down. But I think there's different things. The first thing, if you want me to, kind of mention a couple ideas here, I really think it's going to sound like an interesting place to start, but we've all heard of the exercise of kind of writing your own eulogy, like defining what you actually want people at your celebration of life or whatever you want to call it, what you want them to be saying about you. And we don't have to go get too descriptive around that exercise, but bottom line, what do you want people saying when you're gone? Okay, cool. If that's what you envision, now let's compare it against our present day reality. What would they be saying? And there's a disconnect for all of us.
So you're saying at your eulogy, you maybe don't want them to say he watched every episode of Seinfeld 7 times. And he knew all the Friends episodes. Yep. Well, no, that's probably not what people are thinking.
I'll tell you, for me, when I write mine, and again, it's so fascinating to me, like personally, because again, I've talked about this 1,000 times, but I could feel myself like getting chills. I want my daughters standing up there saying things like, "My dad was always there. My dad, I could talk to him about." The joys of my life and the pains of my life. Like he was not just my dad, but he was my closest confidant. Like I could picture these things being said. And then, hey, here's the hard truth. I got to look in the mirror today, the present day reality, and say, am I being that guy? And that goes right back to the time is finite concept, right? Like for most of us, there's going to be a disconnect between who we want to be and who we might be right now. And now every day I get to chip away at that. So I think it starts with like this understanding as to what we want to be remembered for, or who we want to be, or what contribution we want to make to this world and to our families, and then working backwards. And you could really start to get more deliberate around that. So I always think in terms of like, what's the first thing we could all do? It sounds like an interesting place to start, but let's go to the envisioned future and work our way back. I also think that, you know, this one of the first things I ever did upon the awareness around this, I had a business coach, Mike Fleming. Maybe you guys know Mike Fleming. Mike, I remember when my daughter was young, and he said, "Hey, Brian, it's time that you start to form some rituals with your kids." So, well, what do you mean? He's like, you should be doing something every week, just you and that kid. And obviously it evolves as they mature. So real quick, like I started at that time taking my daughter to Whole Foods, putting her in the cart because she was that small. And every Sunday we'd walk around Whole Foods. And that progressed to the splash pad. I'm here in Scottsdale, Arizona. So there's these splash pads all over the place. And it evolved to where it's at today, where I have a date night with each kid and my wife, right? So we go to dinner. But the idea here is start to do something on a regular basis that at least provides some connection that didn't exist. And again, maximizes that time. You guys both probably, I'm going to guess if you're like me, there's probably things that like you think back when you were a kid and you're like, we used to always do ABC. We used to always go to a game, or we used to. The truth is you probably didn't always do it. You maybe even did it like 5 times, but our memory is that we did it all the time with dad, all the time with mom. And so I think that's a great place to start. Like, not to be overwhelmed by all of this, not to suddenly stop working, but what can you do to manufacture that additional time? For me, it's forming any sort of ritual that creates more time, personal time, one-on-one time, present time. So there's a handful of other things, but the first couple things that come to mind for me, write that eulogy and start to form rituals.
So what I'm hearing is, like, first of all, you created awareness that the time is finite, and you did that by actually doing some math. Then you start to think, well, like, how can I increase this? Now, Brent, I know you are aware of this on some levels. What kind of rituals do you have with your kids, or how do you go out of your way to make sure that you're getting the time that you need with them?
So first and foremost, this is a rude awakening for me. Just talking through this particular topic and thinking through this topic. I've never done the math. I should probably, like, first thing I'm doing when I get off this video is doing the math. My goal ritual is breakfast with each kid every single week, and then a date night with my wife every single week. And the execution of that is not as flawless as it should be, to say the least. So I'm going to go back and get clear on the math, because I know that awareness is what's actually going to drive me forward to do those things. Now, I think where my head is going is, like, how does this apply? Like, why is this important for business? And so I'm actually kind of curious, Brian, like, as a professional real estate agent, why is this even important to focus on? Like, how does it help me in business?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I might go a little bit different direction than most. I'm not going to give you this big why sort of answer, though. To be clear, that should be a component of it, right? Like, I think when you start defining wealth, right, it's so much beyond financial accumulation. It's really having, people typically default to freedom to do this or freedom to do that. That's how they define wealth. I actually kind of go a little bit different direction. I don't think freedom to, I think freedom from, being locked to my calendar, freedom from having to constantly do deals, or freedom from stress or waking up in the middle of the night. Like, that's how I kind of define wealth. So when I think around like this particular subject, I don't necessarily want to go to big why. I go to energy of all things. Like I'm not like a, hey, let's study energy, levitate. So I don't mean it in that sort of way. I mean, like, I think, and you guys know this, you've been in business and life for a little while and highly successful as you are. There are things in life and people in life and projects in life that give you energy. And frankly, there are those that take it away.
Mm-hmm.
And I think as I've gained a little bit more clarity, I'm still on this journey, right? I recognize that this time, this purposeful time, the rituals, the things that you described, the breakfast, things like that, that gives me massive energy. Like striving to do more of that energizes me from a business perspective. Does that make sense? Like,
Yeah.
I know what I want in terms of maximizing time. Therefore, I've got to do things in my business world to accumulate the opportunity, the freedom from all these other obligations so I can do more of that. And I'm
Yeah,
energized by it.
I think something I'd like to point out is this is very common when we're dealing with business owners and real estate agents is they go to work and then they're thinking about all the things they should have done when they were at home. So like, oh, I need to spend time with my kid or my spouse or chores or whatever. Then they do that all day. Then they go home and they're like, dang, I didn't call that person. I didn't do this thing. I was supposed to get that done. So, I think one of the real hacks here is, spending time with your kids or the people that are important in your life is one thing, but spending present time
Yeah.
with them and being where you're at, I think is massive. So, any hacks on how someone can stay where they're at, like they can be where they are?
It's such a good call out because I know I've talked to lots of people over the years and like, I spend a ton of time with my kid. They're sitting in the back of my car while I'm doing showings or whatever. And it's like, or I'm on the phone, to your point, like, no, you're in proximity to the kid, but you're not spending time. I think that, and again, I think you guys have probably been on a very similar journey. Uh, One thing you've got to learn, like it's a muscle, it's something that we all have to get better at, no matter how good we are at it, is saying no. Like, strategically, like thinking through various scenario, like what is my model for saying no to things that don't matter to the level I believe time with, say, family happens to be. Like I know this sound, I'm a little strange when it comes to a lot of things. But I have, certain templates or formats or emails, like purposeful ways that I can say no and not feel bad about it. I, I had to gain comfort. I was the guy that used to wake up in the middle of the night and say, oh my God, I didn't return that one email. To me, that's constantly saying yes. I had to work hard on saying no and not feeling bad about it. But that very much is a prioritization thing. And it probably comes with age or with years, whatever it may be. But I do think we have to really develop the skill, because it is a skill of saying no. The other thing I want to mention real quick, because I think, when I'm talking to people, it's like, where do I start? And I mentioned forming rituals. Another thing to consider, there are lots of things that we're all doing in our business and personal world, especially personal world, for sake of this conversation, that I think we can leverage what I like to call net time, NET, which stands for no extra time. In other words, like if you're going to go, this is a goofy example, but if you're going to go to the grocery store, take the kid with you and make it an adventure of some sort. If they're little kids, you could make it you know what I mean? Like you're already going there. You're already doing these things. How can you do this with no extra time? Now, it might be hard to stay present, but I'll take proximity over zero. You know what I'm saying? So what can you do? What are you doing right now that you're using your time to accomplish that you can leverage in such a way? Does that make sense? To create an experience? When I talk around, my dad, right? Like if I work it backwards, I'll do lots of things and I will just, I'll call him or I'll invite him just because, rolling in the car together is time that I can create. I could manufacture My mom works in my office. And by the way, it's not because she's super talented. I want to be clear. Like I say this in the TED
I think you've
talk,
said
right?
enough.
I said it in the TED talk, like my mom's a workhorse and she crushes it. But the truth of the matter is I don't have to hire my mom. But when you math that one out, but when all's said and done, I'm estimating like 4,000 extra days I wouldn't have had because she's in my office and she has been for 12, 13, 14 years. You know what I mean? Like that takes, I'm already going to make a hire. By the way, I'm not telling everybody hire your mom or dad, but I'm already making that hire. I already need someone talented. Is there an opportunity to put somebody in my world that I want to spend more time? It's just, I don't know. I think you just start thinking about this stuff. Your head's always on a swivel once you have this or you create this awareness.
Well, Brent, why don't you close us out? We got some other things we want to get to, but this has been powerful. So what do you got, Brent?
So a couple things, and I'll try not to go on a long monologue here, but a couple things that have come to mind as we were talking through this. Number one, like if someone doesn't have close family or kids or whatever, and they're like, how does this apply? I was in Portugal, and there's several temples that are made out of human skulls. And so you're thinking, wow, what this is like some kind of like medieval, crazy, like dark temple, but I really want to go see it. And when you go into it, it's literally bones and skulls. It's all bones and it's tens of thousands of them. And you read why they made it. And the monks would sit inside of it and they would meditate and they would look at all of the skulls and bones around them to remind them that they're going to die, that life is short and there's only so much so much time you have on this earth. And they would do that so that they would be present, so that they would be clear. So I think someone listening to this, if they didn't have kids or close family, like do the math on your own life. How many months do you have and how many working months do you have? And what does that look like? And then segueing off into the conversation of business is that speaks to the thing that you and I are obsessing over, Chase, which is optimization. How much time do people spend in business working on things that they shouldn't even be optimizing, that aren't even moving the needle for their business to stay busy? Where if they optimized their work and their business, they actually would have more time to be present in other things. That's kind of my take and my aha on it. Can
I jump? I know we're trying to wrap
this thing
up, but I get so fired up around this. This same math, just so we're clear, we're talking around relationships, but you can apply it to lots of things. Like in the TED Talk, I talk about like snow, like being in the snow and skiing. Let's just take, for a different example, the beach, right? Like I'm in Arizona. The beach is not nearby, so I have to make a trip every year. I get maybe like 5 days in the ocean a year, some years more, but let's just call it 5. How many more ocean swims? I don't want to relate this back to the kids, but for sake of putting a time frame on it, how many more ocean swims do I get with those kids? We won't do that math, but you know exactly where I'm going. Or how about just in life? How many more times do I get to put my feet in the water if I maintain, my present state of 5 a year? Say I have 30 more years, I get to put my feet in the water 150 more times. That's not that many times. Like I was talking to some college kids, they go on road trips. How many more road trips do you have with your best friends as a college kid? Yeah. And so I bring that up, not to make anybody sad, but I'm like, all right, cool. Like with the kids at the beach, are you going to just sit there with the Corona in hand and say, hey kids, go out and swim. I'll be out there later or whatever. Or are you going to get your ass off the chair and get out there knowing that like you maybe only have 6 times left, but that they invite you to
149 more.
It's true. Like there's a clock on everything.
Well, I'll just tell you, my kids are a little older than both of yours. I've got a 21-year-old, a 20-year-old, and a 13-year-old. And we just went to Hawaii about a month ago. And I talked to my wife. I'm like, how many trips do we have where we're all together?
Yeah.
Who knows? That could be the last one. I mean, so you really got to be present. If you knew it was the last family trip you could ever have with your kids, it'd change things. So, all right, let's move
I would
on.
treat all of them as I would treat them all as the last, because you don't even
yeah,
a lot of time you don't even know it's the last one until it's already been had. It's crazy.
Yeah. So
Sorry,
let's
go
jump
ahead.
in. We'll just pick one of these news articles. I'll pick this one because I think this is interesting for real estate agents to just be aware of. But the U.S. housing market reaches all-time high, 55.1 trillion in value. So that's an $862 billion gain in just 1 year. New York led the growth, while markets like Florida and California lagged. So, what does this record valuation signal about long-term strength or risk in housing, in your opinions? Either one, you can jump in. We're only going to go 30 seconds each, and I'm muting you. So rip it.
Sir,
okay. Oh, you're thinking you know what? He's only got so many minutes to think, so he's going to maximize those minutes.
I have thoughts here. I mean, I didn't know if you wanted to run, so I'm giving you the floor, Brent. Go ahead.
Now you both have 20 seconds. So Brent first, then Brian.
All right. So here's my thought. So a year or 2 years ago, there was stats that were coming out with the percentage of people that had 100% equity, the percentage of people that had 25% equity, and so on and so forth. And so my thought around all of this news is this is the result of people being rate locked and the pent up demand of people saying, I'm not going to move, or the people saying I can't buy right now. And I think that there's a magic number in interest rates that's going to unlock the market and unlock all of that available value, if you will. And I'm assuming like the overall value is owned value, right? Or is it all real estate across the board?
It's
I guess I made the
combined in terms of residential real estate combined.
Okay, so the other thought that I have is I think the moral of the story is, for a very long time, from 2010 to 2014, there wasn't enough building going on, but values were depressed, started coming up in 2014. We actually didn't hit the inflation marker until 2019, I think, as a nation, and we're not much above the inflation marker. So I think there's probably
your traditional valuation. We're above it, but not much. Okay, Brian,
I think we're above it, but not much.
Yeah. I mean, I think Brent made great points there. I think I'd echo the same sort of thing. I don't know if the number you gave is a good or bad. I don't think that's necessarily relevant from my perspective. I think at the end of the day, we have a home affordability issue, and home affordability, to Brent's point, is the result of lack of inventory, lack of building, and rates where they're currently at, in combination with wages. Right. And so I think that we've got some things to really fix economically in this country that extend beyond just the real estate market. But since we're focusing on real estate right now, I do believe, I'm going to echo what Brent said specifically around interest rates. I do think you get to 5.98 and there's a shift. What I don't know, what'll be interesting, because again, I believe what Brent's saying. I agree. Like if I have looked at my crystal ball, there are a lot of people that would like to sell their home and make a move, but are unwilling to give up their present rate. And I think that they're encouraged to do so as soon as we get below 6. So I do believe that. That's my gut. But I mean, there's an argument to be made that lower rates might make the issue in terms of inventory worse. Right? Like if those people don't go to market and now more people can afford and demand rises, it can create. So it's going to be a very fascinating, in my opinion, next few months into the next in the next year, because there's so many variables at play. Bottom line, we've got to add more units. We have to add more units, new and current, or current builds.
The only thing I would add to that is I think inventory has crept up. And so I would be curious to see what happens with inventory if the rate lock mentality goes away, people feeling trapped in their house, I'd be really curious to see what happens to inventory. And then the follow up to that is, a lot of these metros are doing different things with Airbnbs. I'm curious what would happen with short term rentals if that all hit at the same time. Even with lower rates, there's a possibility that it could put downward pressure on prices, which wouldn't be a bad thing.
Yeah, most of those people that are locked in their homes though are buyers too, right? So
That's true.
you're bringing a house on, and you're also bringing a buyer into the market. So here's my takeaway, and I will stick to the 30 seconds or less. Is real estate's a great way to build wealth. And that's the takeaway that I think we should be talking about as real estate professionals. It's 55.1 trillion. Side note, fun fact, BlackRock manages about 10 trillion. So they manage about it's not residential real estate, by the way, but 20% of the real estate market in total, they manage that. That's insane. So let's shift gears over to some skill stuff. Like, Brian, Brent and I both were talking, and we're like, let's ask Brian, how can what are some ways real estate agents are finding success in today's market?
Yeah. There's lots of thoughts or answers I have around this. I could give you what's top of mind and what I'm specifically talking about right now with all of my people. And I talk to, as you guys know, and many know, at Place, I interact with teams and agents all day long. And so I think I might talk to more teams across the nation than anybody. And I don't say that as like that's cool. That's just the nature of what my job entails, what I do. And one thing that I'm talking around quite a bit at this very moment is that the speed to lead concept that the three of us have grown up with, and that was always like the way you gain an advantage is to be faster to response or whatever it may be than everybody else around you. And while there's still an element of truth to that, the reality is AI technology is not really making that a competitive advantage anymore. Well, what I'm seeing is that with the advance of AI tech and all of that, I think there needs to be a much more custom approach. People are expecting a more custom, educated approach to their specific scenarios. For example, if I'm an agent, what I'm trying to get at is I don't know if the era of I don't know if generalists are going to thrive in the way they used to. I see a lot more specialty in the market. An example of that may be, let's say, expired homes. There's a lot more expired inventory today, and many agents are working expired listings. That's great. I think that if you have the ability to reach out to individuals and say, hey, I'm sure you're getting a dozen calls today. It's not a TCPA conversation. We'll save that for another day, but let's just level set. I'm sure you're getting a lot of calls today. So-and-so's might have called you, and he's a luxury specialist, and so-and-so might have called you, and she works the neighborhood. Well, I happen to have a specialty as well. I work with homeowners whose home did not sell the first time around. That's all I focus on. That is my specialty. My marketing, my service, my team, my operation is structured around individuals that did not sell last time they were on the market. Now, I'm not going to go further with that script, but what I'm trying to say here is I think the specialist mentality is necessary, the specialist, because people are expecting a different level of service today because of the availability of data and knowledge. And frankly, everyone's starting to look the same more so than ever before. So we have to differentiate ourselves by being, in my opinion, more tactical or specializing, which means more custom approach. Like if you're a VA buyer, right? Like you can't work with or you shouldn't have to work with the generalist anymore. You should work with an agent that understands VA inside and out. That is their specialty because ChatGPT makes that possible. I'm a big, and I'm sure you guys have said the same thing. I've just felt for a long time, AI will not replace our relationships. It will not replace the realtor, but I do believe AI will replace the realtor that doesn't embrace AI. So everything that we have at our fingertips, we've got to leverage and let it enhance the consumer experience if we want to have different results than our peers. So specialty to me right now is a hot topic.
So Brent, let's stick on the same path, but instead of asking how someone should get a deal today, how can someone use AI, Brent, to get a deal today?
How can someone use AI to get a deal today? So, first of all, I think anybody who isn't using AI to their fullest potential, I think I agree with Brian there. You're going to get replaced, hands down. And so, what I think where AI could help, first of all, let me just back up. If you don't know how to make a GPT, then I would learn how to make a GPT. A GPT is where you can teach the AI all the prompts you want so you don't have to keep repeating yourself, and you can build an AI exactly to the specific specs that you want it to operate within. So I would build a GPT, and then that GPT, the instructions that I would give it is, you know, I'm just going to banter here and kind of make it up as I go, but I would give it instructions on, you are a highly skilled real estate lead generator, and your only job is to think about ways to find real estate business based on current trends, news, and give me ideas of narratives that I can use to call my current relationships. Give me ideas of value adds that I can use to call my current relationships to stay top of mind and be the real estate go-to. So that might be something along the lines of the prompts I would start teaching it. Once you create that GPT, it then becomes a permanent fixture inside of your chat GPT. You go to that GPT and you say, what am I doing today? What's currently happening in the world or in news that would give me a value piece that I could then go offer to my database? And what that might look like is interest rates have dropped, right? So the GPT would be trained to give you the one or two things that you should email out, text out, or call out in order to generate business off of your sphere of influence. That would be an
Okay.
example.
I think that's really good advice. And so both of you actually said something that was similar. So then now you got to go old school and you got to answer the question. Relationships. Both of you just brought up that AI will not replace relationships. So give me one way that you could right now go get into more relationships as a real estate professional. And we'll go Brent, then Brian.
Okay. So getting into more relationships to me comes down to how are you deciding to lead generate? Because that's eventually how you're going to find people who want to stay in your orbit by asking them if you can stay in touch with real estate related information in the future. So I think that part needs to be selected, and that may be based off your specialty. So it may be expired listings, and that's how you add more people to your database. You go get in relationship with people who failed at selling and then they're not ready or whatever. You presented them with enough value, you followed up with value, you put them into your database, you've asked for permission to stay in touch. So pick your poison on how you want to find people. Expired listings, internet lead generation, social media is probably a good way for a lot of people to get into proximity if you're intentional enough to bring them into the real world and get them into your database. The piece that I would add to that is because of social media and because of the amount of noise that is out there now, your database is being hit with, if they're starting to think about real estate, they're being hit with real estate messages all over the place, online, social media. And so I think if someone is going to invest in their relationships, the 33 touch of the past doesn't work. You need to have high frequency, high value touches that are curated to the people inside of your database. And you can use AI to do that.
Awesome. Brian, how can I grow my database or improve my relationships or add more relationships? Give me a tactic.
Yeah, I get, since we're going old school, right? I'm gonna dust off the old manual. I think it's an interesting thing going old school in that one thing remains true today. And I think that the more intimate the interaction with an individual, the higher the rate of success. We used to say like, okay, how can you connect with masses of people? Well, you could send emails. Okay. And what would be the next thing up that's a little bit more connected. Okay, I could send text. Okay, what would be the next thing up? I can make a call. And then we introduced the Zoom, and like all of those are driving to a more intimate interaction. At the end of the day, the basics that are get face to face with more people and actually be a human being, it's even more relevant today because of all of the ways that we can communicate. People still want relationships. They still want to interact. They still want to be led, right? Like that's one interesting thing I think in real estate and a lot of professions. When you go see your doctor, you don't need to know all of medicine. You just want to know that he or she can lead you to the right path. When you see your lawyer, which hopefully is not often, you don't need to know law. You just want to have confidence that this individual can lead you. I think the same thing holds true in real estate. And we got to create more intimate interaction. So the question is, how do we get more face-to-face? I think what Brent said is excellent in creating relationships is broadly, but I think we got to talk around how do we get more face-to-face? And I don't think there's any secret sauce here, Chase. I got the worst answer. Try. Like, show up. Like, there's 3 types of people in the world. Those that are business for you, those that are sources of business for you, or those that you're going to hire and bring into your world. Look at anybody in your current world right now. They're a source of business, a piece of business, or someone you might be a hire. That's it.
I love that.
Like as crazy as it sounds, like if you walk around the world, you walk into a Starbucks and categorize everybody in that way, and you change your behavior a little bit, like you think I got to create more relationships, I got to ask more questions, you can win. I think it's a function of just doing it.
I'm going to give 2 tactics that will be short and sweet. So the first one is just a simple conversation you can have with people you actually like in business. Call them today. Tell them, hey, I love being in business with you. In fact, I wish my entire day was spent talking to people just like you. So I'm just curious, you probably hang out with other people like you. Who do you know that's like you that I should be in touch with? Does 2 things. 1, you're going to flatter them. And so be honest, make sure it's someone you actually care about. And 2, they're probably going to be thinking about someone and they'll introduce you. Maybe go take them out to coffee, lunch, whatever. That is an easy way to grow your database. The second one, no one is going to take me up on, and I've said it 1,000 times. Go join Toastmasters. It's like $75 a year to go join Toastmasters. You're going to become better at public speaking. You're going to become better at leadership. And you're going to be sitting in a room with people who are putting themselves through the pain of becoming better at speaking and better at leadership. And so they're usually higher quality prospects and clients, and they will buy real estate. So
can I add one tactic?
Take me up on that and message me when you do, because no one will do it. So give me a tactic. We've got like 20 seconds or less.
20 seconds, and then we'll finish up. I think the other tactic is people have a huge database of people that they probably haven't talked to in a long time. And then the anxiety or the guilt of having not talked to them in a long time prevents them from re-engaging them. So the tactic I would give them is call and apologize. And here's what it looks like. Ring, ring, someone answers, hey, so-and-so, it's Brent. I'm just calling to apologize. And then shut up. And they're gonna be like, what are you apologizing for? What are you talking about? And you say, look, I've become very aware that I haven't put a lot of intention around people that are important to me in my life. And I'm moving forward. I want to do that. So I want to first apologize for not staying in contact with you, but I want to commit to you that my goal is to stay in contact with people that I want in my orbit. And you're one of them. Are you okay with that? And they're going to be flattered, but it definitely removes the anxiety and the fear of calling these people that maybe you put in past friends or whatever, and then you haven't communicated with in 2, 3, 4, 5 years. It's a great way to re-engage.
Awesome. All right, Brian, you got one thing you could just implant it in the brain of every realtor on the planet to help them be better. What is it?
Yeah, I think we overcomplicate this stuff. And this is going to sound funny when I say it, but I'm going to tell everybody to, and I say it in the TED Talk too, I'm going to tell everybody to get weird. What do I mean when I say that? It's fascinating, but when you study success, when I study you guys, or I study anybody that's had great success in business or life or relationships, what do I find? What I find is that they're doing things different than the status quo. They're doing things different. They're approaching life different. They're working a little bit differently. Maybe it's more hours or a different strategy. However you spin it, they look different. And by definition, what is that considered?
Weird.
It's considered weird. So I like to think like, what's different about me in comparison to the status quo? You know, the common denominator of success is doing those things that failures just don't like to do. So I actually like to ask the question, as sick as it may sound, what would a failure not like to do in this scenario? Okay, cool. That becomes my playbook. So I would challenge everybody today by asking, what are you doing that's weird? When you look in the mirror and you think, and you're looking at yourself and you say, hey, what's weird about me? If your answer is nothing, we've got a problem. So what time you waking up? What's the first thing you're doing? What are you reading? Who are you hanging around? How are you approaching business? How are you approaching your time? Because I understand this time conversation is weird. I just say get weird. And if you're not weird, figure out a way to get a little weirder, which is likely start hanging out with different people, listening to different things, and taking different actions.
Awesome. It's great.
Never thought I would
man.
leave the podcast saying get weird.
Well, hey, thank you guys for letting me rush you along, because we wouldn't have gotten to all that good stuff if we didn't rush and move fast. So thank you guys for powering through. Really want to thank Brian for being our guest here today. It's been awesome. You've got both of us thinking about things. I'm sure everyone listening right now is really taking some internal stock on what they need to do. So thank you very much, Brian. We appreciate you, man.
Appreciate you.
Thank you guys. Thanks for having me, and thanks for all you're doing in the real estate